are listening to the most comprehensive paranormal archive on the internet.
Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing the series review, New Lands by Charles Fort. As always, you can find everything at the website, that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And that includes all the episodes, links to social media, and ways to support the show and friends of the show, including Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co-host of this show on Saturdays whenever she can make it. So a few things to note here for this series here of reading all of Fort's nonfiction works. There will be things that you and or I do not agree with. There we go. Got my train of thought back. That Fort says in his writing. Also, there may be things in there that he talks about as being mysterious, but that are maybe not so mysterious now, as these books were written about 100 years ago. Also, I apologize in advance for mispronouncing any names of people and or places, as words are hard, and not all these words are even in English. So, takes care of all that. Also, I may be rereading some of this, I'm not sure. The reading app I've been using had a major update, and so things are a little bit different now within the app than they used to be. So that's what we will do as well as we can here with this going forward. So continuing on with the reading here. 3 comets were predicted to return in 1913. Not one of them returned. Monthly notices 74-326. Once upon a time, armed with some of the best and latest cynicisms, I was hunting for prey in the magazine of science and came upon an account of a comet that was expected in the year 1848. I supposed that the thing had been positively predicted, and very likely failed to appear. And for such common game, had no interest. But I came upon the spore of disgrace in the word triumph. If it does come, it's in quotation marks here, it will afford another astronomical triumph. In quotation marks, Magazine of Science, 1848-107. The astronomers had predicted the return of a great comet in the year 1848. In monthly notices, April 1847, Mr. Hind says that the result of his calculation had satisfied him that the identification had been complete, and that, in all probability, in quotation marks, the comet must be very near, end quotation marks. Accepting Professor Madler's determinations, he predicted that the comet would return to position nearest the Sun about the end of February 1848. No comet. The astronomers explained, I don't know what the mind of an astronomer looks like, but I think of a fizzle with excuses revolving around it. A writer in the American Journal of Science 2-9-442 explains excellently. It seems that when the comet failed to return, Mr. Barber of Etwell again went over the calculations. He found that between the years 1556 and 1592, the familiar attractions of Jupiter and Saturn had diminished the comet's period by 263 days, but that something else had wrought an effect that he set down positively at 751 days, with a resulting retardation of 488 days. This magic that would petrify with chagrin the arteries of the hemorrhagicalist statue, that's quite the word, that ever convinced the faithful, reaching back through 3 centuries of interactions, which, without divine insight, are unimaginable when occurring in 3 seconds. But there was no comet. The astronomers explained. They went on calculating, and 10 years later, were still calculating. See Recreative Science, 1860-139. It would be heroic were it not mania. What was the matter with Mr. Barber of Etwell and the intellectual tentacles that he had thrust through centuries is not made clear in most of the contemporaneous accounts. But in the year 1857, Mr. Hind published a pamphlet and explained. It seems that researchers by Littrow had given new verification to a path that had been computed for the comet, and that nothing had been the matter with Mr. Barber of Etwell except his insufficiency of data, which had been corrected. Mr. Hind predicted. He pointed to the future, but he pointed like someone closing a thumb and spreading 4 fingers. Mr. Hind said that, according to Halley's calculations, the comet would arrive in the summer of 1865. However, an acceleration of 5 years had been discovered so that the time should be set down for the middle of August 1860. However, according to Mr. Hind's calculated orbit, the comet might return in the summer of 1864. However, allowing for acceleration, the comet, in quotation marks here, the comet is found to be due early in August 1858. Then, I'm not sure, calculated. He predicted that the comet would return upon August 2nd, 1858. There was no comet. The astronomers went on calculating. They predicted that the comet returned upon August 22nd, 1860. No comet. But I think that a touch of mercy is a luxury that we can afford. Anyway, we'll have to be merciful or monotonous. For variety, we shall switch from a comet that did not appear to one that did appear. Upon the night of June 30th, 1861, a magnificent humiliator appeared in the heavens. One of the most brilliant luminosities of modern times appeared, as suddenly as if it had dropped through the shell of our solar system, if it be a solar system. There were letters in the newspapers. Correspondents wanted to know why this extraordinary object had not been seen coming by astronomers. Mr. Hind explained. He wrote that the comet was a small object and consequently had not been seen coming by astronomers. No one could deny the magnificence of the comet. Nevertheless, Mr. Hind declared that it was very small, looking so large because it was near this Earth. This is not the later explanation. Nowadays, it is said that the comet had been in southern skies where it had been observed. All contemporaneous astronomers agreed that the comet had come down from the north, and not one of them thought of explaining that it had been invisible because it had been in the south. A luminosity with a mist around it. Altogether, the apparent size of the moon had burst into view. In Recreative Science 3-143, Webb says that nothing like it had been seen since the year 1680. Nevertheless, the orthodox pronouncement was that the object was small and would fade away as quickly as it had appeared. See the Athenaeum, July 6, 1861, in quotation marks. So small an object will soon get beyond our view, in quotation marks, and then parentheses Hind. Popular Science Review 1-513. That in April 1862, the thing was still visible. Something else that was seen under circumstances that cannot be considered triumphant. Upon November 28, 1872, Professor Kinkerfuse, I'm not sure, of Göttingen, let me see, looking for Biela's comet, saw meteors in the path of the expected comet. He telegraphed to Pogson of Madras to look near the star Theta Centauri, and he would see the comet. I'd not say that this was in the field of magic, but it does seem consummate. A dramatic telegram like his electrifies the faithful. An astronomer in the most telling... I'm sorry. If I could... Wow. It's like I'm legally blind or something. An astronomer in the north, not most, telling an astronomer far in the south where to look, so definitely naming one special little star in skies invisible in the north. Pogson looked where he was told to look and announced that he saw what he was told to see. But at meetings of the Royal Astronomical Society, January 10th and March 14th, 1873, Captain Tupman pointed out that even if Biela's comet had appeared, it would have been nowhere near this star. Among our later emotions will be indignation against all astronomers who say that they know whether stars are approaching or receding. When we arrive at that subject, it will be the preciseness of the astronomers that will perhaps inflame us beyond endurance. We note here the far smaller difficulty of determining whether a relatively nearby comet is coming or going. Upon November 6, 1892, Edwin Holmes discovered a comet. In the Journal of the British, I'm guessing, Astronomical Association, 3-182, Holmes writes that that different astronomers, had calculated its distance from 20 million miles to 200 million miles, and had determined its diameter to be all the way from 27,000 miles to 300,000 miles. Professor Young said that the comet was approaching Professor Parkhurst. I'm sorry. I think I might. Professor Young said that the comet was approaching. Okay, there we go. Professor Parkhurst wrote merely that the impression was that the comet was approaching the Earth, but Professor Burbridge, and there's a publication, I'm not sure what these abbreviations are, announced that upon November 6th, Holmes's comet had been 36 million miles from this Earth and 6 million miles away upon the 16th, and that the approach was so rapid that upon the 21st, the comet would touch this Earth. The comet, which had been receding, kept receding. And let's see, that's the end of the chapter. We're on chapter 4 here now. And, okay, I'm going to do something real quick here. So I'm having technical difficulties with the reading, in that the margins appear to be too wide. And the problem with that is, to move the mouse across my screen takes a while. And that makes things a little bit difficult when it takes that long. So we're going to do some manual adjustment here as I'm going. So I'm hoping Fort moves beyond this comet and meteor thing here soon. But anyway. Okay. We'll try that. So I don't want to keep you all for too long just doing this. So it says here, nevertheless, I sometimes doubt that astronomers represent a special incompetence. They remind me too much of uplifters and grocers, philanthropists, expert accountants, makers of treaties, characters in international conferences, psychic researchers, biologists. The astronomers seem to me about as capitalists seem to socialists, and about as socialists seem to capitalists, or about as Presbyterians seem to Baptists, as Democrats seem to Republicans, or as artists of one school seem to artists of another school. If the basic fallacies, or the absence of base, in every specialization of thought can be seen by the units of its opposition, why then we see that all supposed foundations in our whole existence are myths, and that all discussion and supposed progress are the conflicts of phantoms and the overthrow of old delusions by new delusions. Nevertheless, I am searching for some wider expression that will rationalize all of us, conceiving that what we call irrationality is our view of parts and functions out of relation to an underlying whole, an underlying something that is working out its development in terms of planets and acids and bugs, rivers and labor unions and cyclones, politicians and islands and astronomers. Perhaps we conceive of an underlying nexus in which all things in our existence are different manifestations, torn by its hurricanes and quaked by the struggles of labor against capital. And then, for the sake of balance, requiring relaxations. It has its rougher hoaxes, and some of the apes and some of the priests and philosophers and warthogs are nothing short of horseplay. But the astronomers are the ironies of its less peasant-like moments, or the deliciousness of pretending to know whether a far-away star is approaching or receding, and at the same time exactly predicting when a nearby comet, which is receding, will complete its approach. This is cosmic playfulness. Such pleasantries enable existence to bear its catastrophes. Shattered comets and sickened nations, and the hydrogenic anguishes of the sun. And there must be astronomers for the sake of relaxations. Let's see. Check on something real quick here. Okay. It will be important to us that the astronomers shall not be less unfortunate in their pronouncements upon motions of the stars than they have turned out to be in other respects. Especially disagreeable to us is the doctrine that stars are variable because dark companies revolve around them. Also, we prefer to find that nothing fit for somewhat matured minds has been determined as to stars with light companions that encircle them or revolve with them. If silence be the only true philosophy, and if every positive assertion be a myth, we should easily find requital for our negative preferences. And so that's a good place to stop for this show here. We have less than a minute left, really, and the next paragraph is half the page or so. So yeah, looking forward to seeing where it goes with this from now on. And I probably will adjust the margins a little more again, but I'll do that in between this end of this show and recording the next one, and see where this goes as far as what subjects I'll bring up next. And yeah, thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.